this video lecture we're going to talk about debug, another constant in built-in constant in Python, and I will actually try my best not to complicate it, because it's very it's a little, I wouldn't say it's hard or a difficult concept, but yeah, it can be a little tricky. So let's proceed with the video and we'll see. Alright, so debug, right, it's used with, most of the times it's used with assert keyword to debug the code. Okay, so first let's understand assert keyword and its working. So as its name suggests, assert means to what? Assert meaning to claim something, right? To state a fact confidently. Okay, so you're asserting a value. So let's say a value face 10, okay, and you assert that a equals to 9, right? It's gonna give you assertion error. Okay, now a equals to 10, no error. Alright, so if condition is true, nothing happens. If condition is false, error is raised, right? Exception error is raised, assertion error is raised, right? So for debugging, you can also insert a message in assert statement, right? You are able to see assertion error, right? So you can also assert a message. So instead of writing that, we are going to say assert equals to 9, and you can just write a message. Right? So the error is assertion error. It is actually 10. Right? So you can also insert a message here in this assert statement. Okay. So debug is usually, its implementation is already optimized. Okay, debug, Python is already using it. Okay, its implementation is already optimized. So in normal condition it is true, right? It is true. We can also write it like that. So default value will be true, right? So that is default value. Now debug means to, what is debugging? Debug means to find and fix errors in the code, bugs in the code, and it's done by testing the code using assert statement. So assert introduces test into the code, or test cases into the code. If you are also studying software engineering, you would know that we have, there are test cases. When you are trying to test the code, different test cases are created, right? So assert statement is used to introduce test into the code, and assert relies on debug. So value of debug __debug __ is determined when interpreter starts. Okay, when you run the program, when you execute Python program, debug value, its value is determined when interpreter starts to work on the program, right? So if you try to assign any value to debug, it's going to be illegal. Okay, it's also true constant, right? So true constant is a constant that true constant never accepts a value. Okay, for example, true, false, none. These are also true constants, and then we also have debug. So if you assign values to these constants, there will be an error. And that's why these are called true constants. Okay. Alright, so like I said, default value for debug is true. Alright, and I also told you that it is optimized. Its implementation is already optimized when you run interpreter. Alright, now when you actually try to run Python code in optimization mode, so now I'm going to tell you how it is used with assert statement or with assertion. So let's say you are writing a piece of code, okay? So again, let's say we have this value, then if debug, you don't have to assign any value here. So when I say if debug, default value is true, right? So when I say if debug, it is automatically when interpreter runs, when the code is executed, it's gonna give true, right? So because it's already working, so the value is going to be true. So if debug, then we can use assert statement here. So we can use another condition. If a is not equal to 10, let's say, what you have to do, raise assertion error. Okay, I'm going to copy these statements, right? I'll run this code. So it says assertion error. Alright, so exception, assertion error is an exception. And I also told you that you can also provide a message here, because I'm not using assert statement explicitly here, so I'm going to use a message this way. I can say wrong value of a. Okay, so when I run it, it says assertion error, wrong value of a. So we are debugging the code. We are trying to find the errors, right? And assertion error will be returned when condition is false. And if condition is not false, it's going to move to next line of code, because it's going to be skipped, right? So if right, so it's not going to provide anything because condition is true here, right? If a is not equal to 67, a is equal to 67, right? So it's going to move to next line of code, which I haven't provided any other lines of code. I definitely can if I want to. So let's say I'm going to create a file here. So let's say A67, and then if it is not 67, then it's gonna raise an error. Otherwise, we're fine. So you can just print hi. Okay, I'm gonna save it. Example debug. Okay, let me. So first I'm not okay. Let me run it. Okay, it's going to move to next code line, right? It's going to skip these, because if a is not 67, then you have to raise assertion. Yes, a is 67, so it's not going to raise assertion error. It's going to move to next line. But if this is so a is not equal to 10, then it is going to raise assertion error. So I'm gonna run it again, right? It is raising exception is raised. Exception, it prints assertion error, and it's not going to move to next line of code. Okay, so what happens is, so this is like when you're testing the code. Okay, in optimized mode, to save time in production code, optimized mode is used using, I'm not going to use it on this shell here, but like something like this, optimized mode, it starts by running the code in optimized mode. And when you use this option, debug, this thing here, this is automatically turned off. So basically it's true, it's actually actual value, default value is true. So when you run it in optimized code, this is going to be false. So if it is false, it's not gonna run. It will also make assert statement it's also going to send assert statement to a halt basically. So assert statement is also not going to work. So it's actually going to save time in production code. Okay, so when you're testing the code, you can use debug, if debug, all of that, you know. When you're running it in production mode, code, when you're running production code, you're working with production code, you want to save time. Instead of running these statements, you can just start running your code in optimized mode, and in that mode this statement will automatically be turned off. Assert will also now stop working, and it's going to save your time. Okay, I'm not sure if it is actually making sense. I hope it will. I will show you how to run code in optimized mode. Okay, and for now I really hope you're able to understand how debug is actually used. And yeah, if you have any question or query, if you were not able to understand any part, let me know. I'll try to explain again. So this is it. Yeah, that's it for this video lecture. I'll see you next time. Till then, take care.